Shin Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.11 finally out on Blu-ray as of a couple of days ago. It took exactly 2 years from it coming out in theaters in Japan to actually getting a Blu-ray release. Probably because of various complicating circumstances. I imagine that it may have been some kind of exclusivity deal with Amazon. Maybe they just felt that releasing the Blu-ray too quickly after it came out on Amazon would have hurt sales. But either way, with the release of the Blu-ray, probably as a sort of justification for it taking as long as it did, we got a bit of new content on the Blu-ray as well. There's no new scenes in the movie. In fact, I have literally no idea what's changed. I've seen the entirety of actually all 3 versions of the movie, and I have no idea what the difference between them are. But either way, even if the main movie itself didn't change, there's some extra stuff on the side on this one, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today a little bit. So, the more exciting bonus on the Blu-ray, Evangelion 3.0 minus 46 hours, is a short film centered on Kitakami Midori, one of the Villa staff members. And it was originally teased about a year ago at this point, I believe, at Lantern Festival that Ono takes some art to every year. We saw the new design for Unit 2 that they used in the short film at that Lantern Festival. And I remember that reason not enough eyebrows at the time. I saw that and I was like, oh, they're cooking something, and no one else believed me. The short itself was properly announced, I think, around 6 months ago, back when the Blu-ray went on pre-order. And yeah, and now it's finally out. The smaller, not really as exciting thing, but still nonetheless, it's content, is Evangelion 3.0 minus 120 minutes, which was originally a manga that was part of Evangelion Extra EX, which was a booklet thing with a bunch of art by the staff in it that was given out for free at showings of 1.01, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. They have taken the art from that, they've colored it in, they've turned it into a bit of a motion comic, and they've dubbed it. And it's a little bit extended in this version. I think there's a couple of new drawings. It's not different, but it is really nice to have voice acting over the top of it. The presentation of this is great, and they do some really cool things with this. I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it, but the ending of it's pretty cool. Yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say about 120 minutes, at least for the moment. I might come back to it. Talking about the main feature here, minus 46 hours, I guess I'll just call it 46. This short is absolutely beautiful. Like, Shin Eva is a very distinctly directed animated feature. Because of how it was shot, they actually didn't storyboard that movie. They got a bunch of actors up on a soundstage and they filmed them in mocap suits. All of the camera shots that you see in the movie were actually taken by real cameras that have just had, like, the drawings sort of rotoscoped over the top of them in a sense, which gives Shin Eva a very distinct look compared to other animated films, and especially compared to other Eva films. Like, Eva in general is beautifully directed, but Shin Eva even stands out amongst those as being quite unique in its presentation. 46 wasn't directed by Ono. It was directed by Tsurumaki and, I believe, Toko Yotabe. Both of them worked on Shin Eva as well, but you can tell that Ono wasn't involved in this because, again, like, it doesn't look the same as the other Eva stuff. This looks different again. It has a bit of a prestige film kind of vibe to it. It's very pretty. The CG work in this is gorgeous. Everything is, beautifully animated. It's very brushed up. It's very polished, is what I meant to say. Even compared to Shin Eva, which I think can look a little bit rough around the edges in some parts. This is, like, obviously, it's 10 minutes long, so it's impeccable. Every shot of it is perfect. If you haven't seen this short, I'm gonna talk about spoilers for the rest of the video, so you might want to click off of it now. But yeah, like, it's really good. You should go and watch it if you haven't already. But talking about what actually happens in this short, some people were a little bit disappointed that the short doesn't go over anything huge, right? Like, we don't really get any massive revelations in this short. It's kind of dedicated to telling the story of why Midori's hair is pink. It's kind of funny to put it that way, but this isn't earth-shattering. It doesn't really try to explain anything that we didn't already know. What this short actually does is put some perspective on the way that the people of Vila feel, especially Midori, but even the others as well, I think. Because, like, obviously, you know, we encounter them in 3.0 from Shinji's perspective, and they all fucking hate him, and we don't know why. Like, yeah, I think it's understandable why Misato and why the others are very cold to him after what he accidentally did. I do think that the way that they feel is justified by the film, but that doesn't mean that we really understand them, you know what I mean? Even after Shin Eva, you know, we hear Midori say that she lost her family. We hear Sakura say that she lost her father. In 3.0 and 3+1, we see the amount of life that's turned into the Eva Infinities. A lot of life was lost thanks to what Shinji did, whether he intended it or not. And it's only fair that they would feel resentment towards him. But we don't really... Because all of the characters who we spend time with survived, except for Kaji, who I feel like doesn't count because he didn't die in the impact, we don't see firsthand what the impact was like. It's one thing to show us 14 years in the future, here are all the bodies of the Eva morphed people stuck in walls, here are like a bajillion skulls. That's terrifying, thank you, but we don't have any perspective for what it would have been like to be there at the time, what it must have felt to lose people at that time. And I think 46 hours is there to sort of show you what this was like actually from Vila's perspective, you know, as people who actually lived through it, people who were impacted by it. And I think, in that respect, it does a really, really good job. The short is pretty scary, to be honest. It creates a very good sense of tension. You know, for how isolated it must have felt to be a survivor at that time. You know, to watch this world just be taken over in real time must have been horrifying, you know what I mean? And we never got to see that before now. Yeah, I mean, like, it's only a small set piece, but I really do think that it helps to explain why Midori behaves the way that she does. There's a scene in Shin Eva, I rewatched it yesterday after watching these shorts, where Sakura is talking to Shinji over like the phone thing on the Wunder, and she's saying to him, you know, stay where you are, you're not really allowed to leave that room, I've got to go to the med bay. And Midori is sitting next to her and she's listening to her. And there's like a close-up shot where she's like staring at her gun in the bag. And you can just tell in that minute that she does not trust that he's gonna stay there. I never picked up on that before. It's obviously foreshadowing for the way that she pulls out the gun later. But I didn't understand what those shots were there, but in that moment I could tell exactly what she was thinking and feeling thanks to this short, and I think that's really good. I think taking the time to let us see the humanity of these characters who are for the most part kind of treated like antagonists from the moment we're introduced to them, and then given very little in the way of substance past that, I think that was a very good choice for the time that they had. And obviously, they couldn't make something that was going to be like earth-shattering with this. They want to keep a sense of mystique around Third Impact. They don't want to explain all the little details. It's supposed to be like that, and for that reason, I don't think they want to... I just think they don't want to ruin the magic. And seeing what Third Impact did to a survivor who was there at the time, that's something different. That's something we don't really get to see in any Eva media. We don't really see the impact that these world-ending events have on anyone besides our point of view characters. So it's nice to get some perspective, you know? Like, yeah, it's all well and good to complain about the short not really answering any questions that anyone actually had, but just because you don't have the question there doesn't mean that it isn't beneficial, I think. Especially when the short is so good. It's a really good short. And like, it was really nice to see sort of early Asuka and Mari bickering as well. You know, and the short does leave us with some questions of its own. Midori says at one point that the people around her who were like turning red and turning into the Eva Infinities, I guess, were adults, like they were the adults around her. And I wonder if perhaps that has some kind of implication. I don't know. Obviously, when that drop of liquid falls onto her hair when she's hanging there, it does start to turn her red as well, but it doesn't, like, immediately do it. So perhaps, I don't know, maybe this is somehow related to the curse of the Eva, like, halting your development. Maybe, you know, the magic shit going on in the Eva world doesn't impact children the same way. You know, maybe she survived it because she was so young. I mean, if we look at the other Vila members, I think all of them are fairly young as well. Sumire, I'm not totally sure about. I think she might be slightly older than the other three, but I think she's still in her 20s, it looks like, and she also wasn't around when Vila was formed. Hideki, he's obviously around the same age as Midori. Sakura is also very young. I think she's younger than Midori is. Takao is like the only one who is older than the others, and he was in the rebellion thing, like when Vila was fighting against Nerve, so he probably would have been protected by whatever technology that they had. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the other members of Vila, the new ones besides him, are all young, which might imply that perhaps, even if, you know, they did happen to make contact with the red stuff, perhaps it wouldn't have changed them the same way. It seems like Midori is the only one who is impacted by the red, I don't know, the corization in any way whatsoever, and it's only impacted her hair. So, yeah, maybe it doesn't impact children the same way. I don't know what that means. It's just a thought that I had. I think it does explain well why she specifically is so aggressive towards Shinji, why she continues to hold such a grudge against him. Yeah, because it's a totally understandable motivation for what we see her go through. That would have been horrifying, and if she really felt like Shinji was personally responsible for it, because it's not like she knows much about it, she was there, but, you know, she wasn't with Nerve, she wasn't with Vila, she didn't see what actually happened, she only saw what it was doing to the world, what it did to her family. If Asuka, you know, someone who knows more than she does, saves her and tells her, hey, this fucking idiot is the reason why the world is like this. If you want to get back at him, if you want to get back at him for your family, if you want to punch him in the face like I do, then you need to survive, you need to fight. Of course she would internalize that. It totally explains why she's like that. Sakura might have been very directly affected by him too and the loss of her dad, but she obviously knew him through Toji. And there's even like early stuff from 2.0's production that shows a scene where she gave him a love letter. Midori never met him and doesn't really have any reason to see this person who ruined her life, deliberately or not, as a human being, really, you know what I mean? I don't know. People don't like the Vila staff. I like all of them except for Sakura. I think Sakura is annoying. I don't think she's very well written. I don't know if a short like this about her would maybe justify her for me. I don't know if anything could justify it to me. But, you know, I don't really get why some people are very nasty about these characters, but I like them, and I like what they did here with this short. It's good. Go and watch it if you haven't already. I don't know why you've listened to me spoil the whole fucking thing if you haven't watched it already. The other thing on the Blu-ray, like I was saying, 120 minutes is, I would say, kind of important to understanding what's going on with Shikanami. Maybe not vital, but I do think that it provides us with a little bit of insight that we don't really get from the movies very well. No matter how small something is, I feel like every part of Eva is important to understanding Eva. I'm never gonna complain about them doing something like this. I really liked the manga, I really like this motion comic version. And even if it's not much, like, I still appreciate them doing anything, to be honest. I love Eva so much that I'm happy for anything they decide to give us. Probably the part of this short that sticks out to me is Mari makes some comment about, you know, Asuka's emotions being like a sign of her youth. Asuka pretty much immediately goes, yeah, this cursed body of mine sure is young, alright. Really funny. I thought, when I first read the manga, this was a really interesting bit of insight to get into Shikanami because, yeah, she makes a couple of comments in Shin Eva, where she's like, my body doesn't grow at all, but my hair keeps growing. That's a pain in the ass. Or I guess kind of the tone that she talks to Shinji with when she's talking about the Curse of the Eva in 3.0. But it doesn't really give us any concrete information on the way that Shikinami feels about herself. I mean, yeah, she obviously doesn't like being this angel Lilin hybrid thing. I don't know what to call it. I don't think we have a name for what the Eva pilots are. She obviously doesn't like being that, but there's not really much in the way of mention of adulthood. Besides Asuka, being like, oh yeah, I've already become an adult. There's nothing that sort of implies that she's... I guess, I don't know how to put this. For Soryu, that pursuit of adulthood is such an important part of her character, right? It's basically, it's a good chunk of what makes her tick. So much of what Soryu does is in the pursuit of being seen like an adult woman. Soryu wants to feel like she has agency, right? And she wants to be desired. But with Shikinami, we don't really have anything like that. Obviously, her instrumentality scene, she makes some comments like, I just want to be recognized. She says stuff like that. What does this mean? We don't have any context for what Shikinami is even talking about here, really, because she doesn't exhibit any of the behaviors that you think this is trying to explain. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's some stuff in 2.0, but it felt like her character at the time of 2.0 was kind of resolved. She went through a whole arc in that movie, and then suddenly it's relevant again when her instrumentality comes up in 3+1, which felt very strange to me. It feels like there's a whole section of Shikinami that just isn't explained, that just isn't delved into in the slightest, right? So seeing this little glimpse of her clearly very... frustrated isn't the right word, but you know what I mean, bothered by the fact that she hasn't aged, is interesting. Because I don't think that it means the same thing as it meant for Soryu, because Shikinami and Soryu are fundamentally different people. Can I tell you what it means? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't mean anything, maybe she is just frustrated, but I don't know, it feels like the decision to give all of these references to not growing up through Asuka specifically, and now this, is supposed to mean something. And given that it was such a huge part of her character in NGE, yeah, I feel like it's saying something about her character, but I'm not sure that I necessarily understand what it's saying. I don't know. I want to understand her better, but I don't really. I don't know. This is a good short as well. Mari's funny. I love seeing Asuka and Mari interact. The 5 single frames of Mari in 46 hours as well was really good. I love her glasses. She's so cool. I love both of these characters, and I'm happy that we got to spend a little bit more time with these characters again. Yeah, I don't know. I know people want to say goodbye. I know a lot of people already did say goodbye. But I'm still here, and I'm happy to see everyone again. I guess that's all I had to say.